Yeah, no, it's the way that yeah, like it's like that's stupid. It doesn't make sense.
Good morning, everyone. All right. So last session we started this unit talking about like lists, how we can create them, and how we can use them. We went through this like this practice. We talked about if we don't have the values of the list, we first we created, then that's the version that we will like basically that's how we implement it. List and inside that sign specify the data type of the list, the name of the list equals new list, and like similarly. And at the end, you want to add the parentheses and then semicolon. Either you add the parentheses, or you can like also add like the brackets, just leave it empty. Both of them like will work. If you already know some of the values for the list, then you need to like when you're creating them, you need to add those values to the list by putting specifying the values inside the brackets, and then semicolon. Just remember, this is a statement. We talked about like some methods, like one of the methods that like every list has is like the add method, which actually like gets an input, and that's how we can like add a value to the list. Then we talked about like iterating and like searching through a list for like different purposes. One loop that we used was like a while loop. The feature of this like this way of searching through a method is that you need an index. You need an index to go through the list like one by one, checking the values in the list. So that's why we created like the counter, and then we know that like the name of the list dot count returns the size of the list. So we want to say as long as like the counter is like less than the size of the list, like move forward and like one by one at a time, check like the list and check the list value. And that would be like the way that like you want to like specify one particular like value in the list. The name of the list inside the braces, you want to like use an index. For index, we use counter. Similarly, like we did another search on the other list that we created. Then we talked about like foreach loop. We talk about this like type of like search through the list in a way that like the difference is that this one doesn't have an index, doesn't use an index to search through the list. Instead of an index, it uses a variable. So every time one of the values of the list is taken and is stored in that variable, and then you can use the variable for any purpose that you're doing like the search for. If you're looking for a particular value, then you can compare that value with the value of that variable. So you work only with that variable in this list, in this type of search. But in the other version, you're working actually directly with the list itself. So you see the difference? Here we use the list itself, but here we only like use this variable and like we work with the variable inside that loop. So first is specifying like the data type of the list, then a name for the variable. It could be anything. Usually kind of like a similar like a version of the list name. Okay, so that was what we talked about last session. And then so if you're looking for a particular value, you want to search through the list, and you like look for a particular value, you can just like simply like say like the value of like value every value in the like the every member of the list, every thing that exists in the list, and then if you find it, for example, like just print it out. One thing which is like, okay, so in this one, I didn't assume that there is only one economy here, but like if you already know that there is only one member in that list that like it is called economy, then maybe once you found it, if you found it and like you perform the task, then you don't need to continue. So that means like you can like break out of the while and like end the loop. If you remember, like if you're like using a loop and like you're performing a particular task and the task is over, then you can use a break to be able to break out of the wall and end that loop. I'll change that later. So let's implement that part here. So we already have the auto types list. So what we want to do, we want to like search through the list using the foreach. Okay. So first, what we specify the type of the data type of that list, and then specify a name for the variable that you will use for like checking out the values in the list. In this case here, like I'll use auto type in then specify that like the list that you want to like do the searching, and the list is auto types and brackets. Okay. Let's say you're like looking for auto type economy and like and then we want to like if we find it, we want to like print out like the value that like we found it. Okay, so if auto type, this time I'm not working with with the list directly. I'm only working with the variable. That's the difference in a like a for each loop. That like you only work with the variable. Say if it is equal to economy, and let's say just wanna like int, okay, simple. Okay. If you already know that there is only like there's only one auto type with this value, if we found it, then we don't need to continue the loop. Okay, we can just like simply end the loop over there. So in these cases, if you're like doing search through the list and like you found what you're looking for, then you don't need to continue if you already know that there's only one member in that list with that value, if only you think there's only one. Let's say like you're searching through the like a student information, a student IDs. If you find it like the student ID that you were looking for, then there is no reason to continue that search because there's only one person with that ID. The same, like, so that's kind of an example to say, okay, if you did that search and you already know, like when you were developing, you would know that there's only one that should have that value, then like if you found that, you don't need to continue the search. Okay. What's the problem if we don't add, like, if we already know that there is only one, but like we don't add a break, that means that we just wasted time because like once, like we found it, but we continue to like check it for like for that variable, for that value. Basically, we wasted the time. We knew that there wouldn't be anyone new with that value, but still we kept going. Okay. So that is missing from here. So again, how like the for each loop works is that in every iteration, the value of that variable changes. Okay, the value of that variable changes in every iteration, and it's replaced with one of the members of that one of the data of points that is stored in that list. So first economy in the second iteration, then intermediate is stored in auto type, and auto type is checked with economy, and so on. So every time like the value of that variable changes in every iteration, and like you're just like directly working with that variable. So you can see that for like basically for each auto type in auto types, that's how it works. Okay, that's kind of like a better way to like kind of like study or like maybe like search through this list. And if like if I want to use it, I'd probably just go with like for each like if I'm doing like a search through the list. Okay, any questions so far? Okay. No question. Okay, so I'll close this. Okay, because we are working on a new practice. This time we are implementing a to-do list application. Okay, so I will open it and to-do list. In this case, it's my signature. So I want to create a to-do list application. My to-do list application is that it's going to it initially I already have some of the tasks that I need to do, like buy groceries, complete my homework, call mom, there you go. The application should be implemented with three important tasks, but we go one at a time. So we want to first we want to display the task in the to-do list. Then we want to check if a task already exists. Then we talk about implementing, adding a new task to the to-do list. Okay, if the task doesn't exist in the to-do list, we will add it. So I'll give you with every one of them, I'll give you 3 minutes or so to work on them, and then we'll complete them together. So first, work on this. Basically start creating creating the to-do list, and then show what is in the to-do list. Okay, just remember that we already have some tasks in the to-do list. Always use comments when you're implementing your code, the same way that we did in the past. It helps you to organize your code. For the homework, make sure that you add these type of major comments, as well as I'll talk about it in maybe next session. Just if you have any questions about the homework as well. So I want to create a like a list to store the to-do list. I'll use it's a string, right? So it's I'll call it tasks. Since I already know like the values of like some of the tasks I need to do, I'll just add them here. Okay. So buy groceries, amount, complete homework, and then so first creating like the list. With if we have the like initial values, we want to like create like add that to the list. In order to like display the like to-do list, then we use like for each loop, say string. Okay. So what should I use for a variable here? Name. I can use anything, but I have a task. So I'll use task as I'm like for each task in tasks. Okay. For each task in task. Simply just hinting out information about the tasks. And it's a variable, so I'll put it inside the bracket. Task. So just pay attention that like this part and this part are the same thing, right? Specifying like creating the new list, specifying the data type the same way here. You should type the new and then this here you specify the name of the list. But the brackets, if you already know like some of the values in the list, you want to specify it. If it's an integer, integer. If it's a string, a string. But every like list can only have one data type. Okay, so I cannot add an integer to this list. If I try to add an integer, okay, let's say I add a number. Every member of the list should have the same data type, okay? Should have the same data type. This is an integer, so it shows you a syntax error. And then you can see, okay. Now, let me ask you a question. I want to change the format of this output. I wanted to show like based on like basically like with a number based on the order, like first task, second task, like one. How do I implement that part? So before the task name, I want to have like a number specifying the task like a counter. What should I change here? Or like add here? If I want to add like a number before every task name, simply I can do it with a counter, like defining a variable and then adding it to the formatted output, and then every time increasing its value with every iteration. So I can just simply say a counter. What is the like initial value? You can say 0. I want it to start from 1. So I will set the initial value to 1. Okay. I want to use this, so like number each of these tasks. In this case here, I'll add the counter. And then I say, okay, just here as a string. that starts from one, because I set it from one, like one task. One more thing I need to add is that with every iteration, like the value of counter should increase to add to the like to the number of like basically to the value of counter. So I say counter plus plus. Okay, counter plus plus. So that like the number is like that's a number to each task. So that way we can like specify number, like we have like the counter plus plus so that like it increases its value of counter, and you can show like task. Okay. So we created that list and then we searched through the list. Like we didn't search it, we just like print out like what is like in the list. So now let's see. Next, okay, so we did this part here. Next, I want to give you like 5 minutes to work on this. Search for a task. It will prompt the user to enter a task name, search for the task, check if it exists in the list, and then if it exists, you should like let the user know that the task already exists. If it doesn't exist, like know that like indicate or like print out the message that like the task doesn't exist. Okay, 5 minutes. If you like created the code, make sure to run it and see the output and see if it correctly specified. First, like try with one thing that like already exists, and also try with something that doesn't exist, and make sure that like you're getting the correct outcome. Review start. Good. Okay. So, first, okay, again, I can add the comments. Add this as a comment. First, I can already know that this is okay. Search for a task. So for itself, just remember, you can also see that this is like just one single like task for itself, just like for the application. You can say search for task. And then I have the comment prompt the user. Okay, so console line enter the task. Then I need a variable to store it, like the value of task. I'll call it just like a new task. So okay. Now, okay, I want to search like to search through the list to see if it exists. Okay, for each string task in tasks. How do I compare compare this value with like new task with the values in the like the list? Simply, I work with the variable. In a for each, I work with the variable. So that means if task equals new task. Now, what should we put here? What should we put here? Okay, good. What else? Is there any other solution? Have you like tried that? This question is because like I wanted like most of you to like kind of like face this kind of like a question that could like mislead someone, and like there is a point here. I want to try one of the things that I would also try the first time. Okay, I would say if you found a task, console right line, okay, found it. Okay, let's say found it. And then probably we would break because like we already found the task. What if we didn't find it? How we would know? How would we know if we didn't find it? One example could be, do you think this is a good like method to say else? Okay. And not found. Does this result in the correct outcome? It doesn't, right? Let's see what it does. Okay, so I'll just say both. Okay, what happened? Not found, not found, not found, found it. Because like every time check like if it is exists, if like it is in the, like the values are equal, if not, then like run the else side and like print it out. See that like the problem with this, like with this version. So this version doesn't work because like every time, if even if it found like if it was the first one, okay, what would happen if it was like the first one? Only if it was the first one, okay, it would say found it and like it would work only for the first one. But for the other ones, it wouldn't create the correct outcome. So how do we change this to fix that issue? It's better, like the solution is that first we check and see if we find it. Okay, so maybe like the process, it should be separated from the output. Okay, the process here is to like check if this task exists. So how do I know it? I can maybe like use a flag. What's a flag? It's like a Boolean, okay? I'll I'll create a new variable Boolean and like say if you find it, change the value to true or false. Okay. So simply I'll create a new variable like say exists and like set initial value to false. Okay. Means that it doesn't like just for it doesn't exist. If you find it, change the value of that flag or like change the value of that variable. Okay. Exist would be set to true. Okay. So I'm not like deciding to print it out inside the loop because the loop goes through the list to check it and like try to see if it finds it. Once the loop is over, then now I can check the value of like that kind of a flag thing or like the Boolean thing that I set here. If its value is the same, then it didn't find it. If it's changed, that means like this worked and like its value changed. Now I can implement it in this way. After the loop, I can check the value of exist. First, with the booleans, if you just simply type the name of the boolean, it is equal to say if it exists equal to true. It checks whether the value of that boolean is true. You can use it this way, or you can also like type it if it equals to true. Either both of them are like checking like are like the same things. So if it is true, that means like we found it. You can like say, okay, it was found. Otherwise, now I can say, okay, it wasn't found. I'll just like copy this task here and like the text here. It's in this list. Okay, again, so like if you would like try to like just if you find it like directly go and print it out, that wouldn't be the like the correct solution because then like every time it would check if it's like the value is equal and then like print out the output. Even if you only put like the like you didn't define the else side and say if the like you find this then print out and like leave, what would happen? What would be the way that you find out if you didn't find it in the task? So that wouldn't be a correct solution. So how do we fix it? We create a variable, like a Boolean variable, like set this value to false. And then if we find that task, we like change the value of that Boolean. After the like search, then we can check the like that like the value of that Boolean and see like if its value has been changed. If it's been changed, that means like this worked. And then we can say we found it or we didn't find it. Okay. I use Boolean in these cases. It could have like you could have like used like a number. Like you would set like a variable, like an integer initial value to 0, and like if you find it, like set the value to 1. But the thing is, it's all like in these cases, if it's either true or false, so it's better like simply to just use a like a Boolean variable to kind of like treat this type of like problems. Okay. 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 How about I give you a few minutes? Now work on this this one. You want to add a new task. So first prompt the user to get the new task. Check if it already exists in the task list, in your to-do list. If it exists, then you want to like let the user know that it exists. Otherwise, if it doesn't exist, then you should add it to your to-do list. Also, maybe like print out the to-do list again. Okay, so this time, like you see, this one was searching for a task. This time we're going to like add a new task. Okay, so first, what should we do? We should prompt the user for a task name similar to the other one. Okay, so since I already like created this type of like a new task here, I'm gonna use the same one here. Okay, um, same line, but this time since I already created the variable, I won't be declaring again, just using it. Okay, so prompt the user for a new task, then the task name. Then we want to search through the list. String task tasks. We will also like need like we'll check the task equals new task. Again, in this case, again, we need like that flag, right? So I'll just use the same like variable that I created, but before the loop, I want to reset the value. So I will reset the value here to false again, just making sure that like it doesn't carry the prior value. Okay, now I will use it here. Makes this equal to true, and break. Okay. Then if the new task, I'm sorry, if the exist equals to false, this time I'll use the other version. Okay, so if the exist equals to false, what should happen? You should add it to the list, right? So we have the tasks list dot add the method. We say dot add, and inside the parentheses, you add the new task. New task. Otherwise, say, okay, right line task already. Okay. So first, we prompt the user to get the task value. What is the task? We search for the list to see if the task already is in the to-do list. If after searching through the list, if we find that the task is not in the to-do list, then we need to add it to the to-do list by using like the task of add. If it exists, we print out and say we already have it. By now, you also you kind of like notice one thing, which kind of like we did the same thing that we did here, and also like here as well. Okay. Now you're kind of like noticing, probably you're noticing like the things that happen. Repeatedly doing the same type of like a task repeatedly, and also maybe copy pasting the same type of code multiple times. And we don't want to do that. So how do we fix that problem? This is a good potential for like moving this like chunk of code into a method. Creating a method because we often are going to use this for different reasons, like searching for a task. So this part will search for a task, right? It does one single task, this whole like chunk of code, like lines of code. It is searching for a task. So what if I have a method to implement, like to perform searching for a task, and then I can use that. Okay. So in the case of methods, how do we treat it if we have a list? The same way. Anytime you want to like pass information to a method, You want to see if you need to supply some information, and if so, those become parameters. So in this case, if you want to search for a list, search through a list, you need to supply two things. First, the task list, and then the new task, because you want to use it to go through the list and search for it. So that means one of the parameters of that method becomes a list. How do you parameter for a list? Similarly, you're defining, right? Parameters are just defining a new variable or new variable in a different method. List is very similar to that. You're here, you're defining a new list so that when you pass the information, it stores it in this a list. We use the same name, but you know that these variables only exist within the boundary of that method. That's why we pass the information, and we have new variables to store them. We need a task, and also we need the task list. In this case, it's add a new task, but let's start with searching through a task. So you see, I did this twice, so I don't want to do it again and again. And also I don't want to have everything here, so I want to move this to a method. So I will start with creating a new method. Which part? I want to move this part to a method. So I want to ask the method, hey, this is the list and this is the new task. See if it exists. So what should it return to me? I want it to just tell me if already exists or not. If this task already exists in the list or not. So basically, I will define the return type as a Boolean to say if it is true or false, if the task already exists in the list or doesn't exist. So I want to use the same thing here. So I want to say, okay, the return type is going to be a Boolean, bool, and I will name it search. Okay, search to-do list. Or check to-do list. In order to search through the to-do list, the method needs the to-do list as well as what is the task that you're looking for. So that tells me these are our method parameters, okay? So in this case, the method parameters is a list. So I need to define that, the parameters are new variable. So what is the data type of that list that will be passed to this method? Is it going to be a string? I'll call it, again, tasks. I could call this the list anything I want. I want to use kind of a similar name, so I use task, and then the other one is the new task. Okay. And basically, what do I want it to do? I wanted to perform this part. Okay, this part. I want to do just go through it like a list, searching for a task, but inside a method. So anytime I want to do a search in a method, only to know if that task exists. Okay, if the task exists, then I want to use this in the method. What it will return? It will return me. I want to I will call this anytime I call this method, I want it to return the value of exist. So if it returns false, then I know that the task doesn't exist in the list. If it returns true, that means the task already exists in the to-do list. Okay. So pay attention here. How do you create a parameter that is a list? So this time, this is the first time we are creating a method that we are passing a list, a number of data, not just one variable. So far, we would only pass variables, one data point. When we created methods, we would create variables as a parameters, and like this one, string new task. you only pass one data point. By adding this, now you know that you can not just one like data point, you can like pass several data points at the same time to a method and then ask it to perform a task for you. Okay. So now that we've created this new task, like new method, then I can use it. Okay. So wherever I created this, I'm gonna start from here, okay, to see how would it like change the way that I program it. Instead of having this part, okay, I created like a variable like exists and equal. Now I call a method search to-do list and pass like the tasks as well as the new task. So I will call the method pass the list as well as the new task itself. It will return me a true or false. I need to store it in a variable and then I check its value. If it is true, then that means like the task already exists. If it doesn't, that means like you didn't find it. The same way here, okay? So also I can get rid of this part as well, okay? This is the benefit of using methods because it cuts a lot of like copy pasting your code, like having a lot of like lines of code in like in your main method. So again, search for to-do list. I need to pass the like the list as well as the new task. Okay. Search through this list and see like if this task exists. I need to supply this information to the method so the method can like do the search. Okay. Any question? You see now what is the benefit of using methods? Like you will have, you can also like we'll talk about it how to like create a method that like adds new to the list. Or like this method we implemented to only return us true or false if one like task exists. Next session we'll create a method that like searches for a particular like a value, and then if it finds it, it should return the value from the list. This is like if you're like looking for a particular value or adding a value, or like maybe like you want to do other like task with the to-do list. Any function that the to-do list has, to-do list application has, you want to implement that function. And we can use like implement that function using methods and also like the same program. So you want to kind of like work with this and then another practice as well. Hopefully we will complete this unit on Friday. Make sure to like check the homework and then start working on it. One thing you want to like I want to say is that on like I will also like give you like the time on Monday session to work on the homework. So if you have also if you like you want to show me your work, like have any questions, I can answer it. It is due like next Tuesday. Okay. And then you should implement that like homework. Like, so this is like the first one after completing methods. So I expect that to be developed with methods. That assignment should be developed with methods. And that is it. Thank you. And yes. Oh, by the way, like the attendance, just I always forget this. So the attendance, and that's it. That was the question.
Yeah, it was just, well,
Oh, that's fine. I probably forget about it. Like I can update that, but take the like this attendance, and that's it. Thank you so much. I'll see you on Friday. Goodbye.